right now we bring to you Super Bowl winning head coach Brian Billick. Good morning. Thank you for jumping on with us today.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Absolutely. Happy holidays to you as well.
Coach, I just poured cranberry sauce into my pants and sang a cranberry song before for
charity
donation money. Have you ever done anything that wild for donation money before?
I'm guessing there was some drinking involved or alcohol involved as well. So
You'd be surprised how sober we are right now.
Oh, then that's just scary. Then, at least you can understand it if you've been imbibing, but otherwise that's just scary.
Now, you got into the BYU Athletics Hall of Fame. You're already in the Ravens Ring of Honor. What honor do you think is next for you? Who should be honoring you next?
Well, I hope it's something to do with my golf game. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I'd love to be on. I'd like to be honored with a hole-in-one. I've yet to get. I'm new to the game. Just picked it up a few years ago. I'm addicted, like intervention type addicted, and I'm still waiting for that hole-in-one. So that's probably the next honor I'm looking for.
Do you happen to know what your score was the very first time you played a full 18 holes of golf?
That's a good question. It's amazing. I used to have disdain for the game when I was working and raising kids and whatever. I just didn't understand how guys were so obsessed with it. And now, yet I get it. That's a good question. I'm sure it was in the hundreds or something. It's just, I'm at the point where I can get on in regulation anywhere, but I can 4-putt any green in America. So it's just killing me.
Because we have a morning show host who's sitting up with us right now who boldly has proclaimed that they can shoot under a 90 or maybe even an 80 the first time they ever golf, which we all think is absurd.
I could do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll go down as one of the other great lies known to man. Because that's like listening to what was it when Biden and Trump were arguing about both saying they were in single-digit handicaps. I'll bet a month's salary against that one.
That is wonderful.
Bringing the golf and political heat.
Love it.
Brian Billick right here on 105.3 The Fan.
This AFC is a wild beast right now. Do you have the way that Kansas City was winning very close games early in the season, and then obviously they just got their first loss against Buffalo. Could you foresee something like that happening in the way that Baltimore and Buffalo are all going after it right now?
Well, it's exciting because everybody we say everybody's touching. Everybody's so close to one another. Now, Kansas City has kind of been the differential, but you're right, in an uncharacteristic, all these close, tight games because of the profile they're playing with now. But I think you have, particularly on the top end, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Buffalo, even Pittsburgh's been playing at that level. I think the Chargers, Denver's been playing very well. All of them are very, very capable. None of them, although Kansas City clearly is they've got the pedigree and the path to, but I'm not a bettor, but I'd have a tough time betting on a game against any of these teams because they're all very, very capable. Buffalo is the one that kind of interests me right now, and Baltimore, because you can see the way Baltimore can be dominant with the running game between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and their ability to get the ball down the field. Their defense isn't quite as good. So, you get a head scratcher when they lose to the Raiders or they lose, then at Pittsburgh, but then come back and Pittsburgh the same way. Beat the Ravens and then come back and lose to the Browns. But Buffalo as a team, they struggled a little bit early, but they seem to be, to me, of all the teams that we're talking about, and even though Kansas City's right there and sitting there at 10-1, Buffalo seems to be carrying themselves, and Josh Allen's playing at a level. They're the ones of the teams. That's the ones that I'm most interested in to see if they can truly separate themselves and be the team to beat Kansas City or Baltimore and go to the Super Bowl.
I have to admit, I am very interested in rooting for Baltimore. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's gotten unfairly criticized at times, but it feels like last year was maybe their year to make it to the Super Bowl. Should we believe in the Ravens come playoff time? Because you were just talking about like how nip and tuck it is with all of these teams.
Yeah, Baltimore, because they've got the pedigree, because they have such that unique talent of Lamar Jackson, and now that the ability to run the ball the way they do, have the big play down the field. The biggest question that I would have, and that's the thing about all these teams. So I can give you 3 or 4 reasons why every single one of them is going to go to the Super Bowl, but I can give you a couple reasons why they're not. And with Baltimore, the biggest question I have is the defense at times looks more vulnerable than we're used to seeing in Baltimore. And then Justin Tucker, the kicker, who's usually been automatic, and the real difference maker, I think, notwithstanding Lamar Jackson, on why that team is always, a championship run, because when it comes down to the margins and the edge, he's going to make the difference. He has shown some vulnerabilities there. So those two things, different from the previous 3 or 4 years with the Ravens, would be the biggest question marks I have for Baltimore.
Coach, what's going on with San Francisco? I mean, it's a team that was returning a good portion of their core back this season and has been, one of the more dominant teams in the league over the last couple of years. And they just can't seem to finish games. What's happened to them this year?
Well, the injuries, the lack of developing a momentum. I mean, their formula has been classic for as long as Shanahan's been there. They're going to play dominating defense. They're going to run the ball, keep the margins tight, not give up big plays, not turn the ball over, and get enough plays out of our quarterbacks to win. But that's when you got to do those 5 things, you got to do all 5 things. And if any one of them or 2 of them fall off in a given game, then you're just not going to win. And that's where they are right now. They just don't seem to have the complete balance and the rhythm to finish these things off, and for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which has been the injuries, of course. But their formula, they don't have that Lamar Jackson that can just get you through that tough game, get you through that tough spot when you're not playing well, when you're not Patrick Mahomes, an Allen, the kind of guys that can say, okay, we don't quite have it today, but I'm going to pull us over the threshold and we're going to get a win and then we'll get back on balance next week. They really don't have that, and so they've been on the backside of it, and it just is not a year that's going to happen for them.
Brian Billick joining us here on The Fan. I've got a general league trend question for you. So, you mentioned the style that San Francisco's done. A lot of teams it's kind of been cyclical. They've returned back to the running game having more prominence in recent years. And, in basketball recently, people were talking about, the mid-range game is coming back. And, in baseball, stolen bases have started coming back a little bit more. Is there something that you see is on the horizon, something that's a little more cyclical that like, hey, this older way of doing things that's kind of gone by the wayside, this is a trend that's going to start coming back soon?
Well, you'd always, everybody says, yeah, you got to be able to run the ball, okay, but and which is a lie because the way we throw the ball around and the way the game is played. But because defenses, in reaction to the spread out game and the way it's so vertical and up and down the field, defenses have gotten smaller. And their personnel groupings. I mean, it used to be, you'd be in base defense 60% of the time, and then nickel 40% of the time, and then it flipped. You were in base 40% of the time and nickel 60% of the time. There are teams around the league right now as a trend that may be in base defense less than 10% of the time.
Wow.
Because the way people are spreading it out. Well, a lot of people saying, okay, if that's the case, I'm going to get more physical, and I'm going to be the counter to that, and we're going to run. And so the defense is having to get that way to adapt to the offenses are now more vulnerable to the run, so more people are trying to take advantage of that. So the running game, I think, is coming back more into prominence, and more people will see that as a way to get their wins, try to be more physical and run the ball, and truly go along those dictates compared to a few years ago where everybody said, yeah, you want to run the ball, but at the end of the day, we were so spread out, you had to pass it.
Now, we've talked a whole lot on this show, and obviously the league has talked a lot about it as well, player safety. And I was hoping to kind of get some info from you about the X-Tech pads and what you're doing there and what they're working with.
Well, I'm very proud of being a part of X-Tech pads. We're the number one pad in pro football, Major Fives, top high schools, around the country. In the old days, big guys wore big pads, little guys wore little pads. But now, like everything, the way we train our players, X-Tech pads is the next iteration in terms of taking care of our players, the special technology. And more than anything else, it's because they're kind of fitted to the players. You don't just say big guys get big pads, little guys get little pads. These pads are fitted to you based on your age, your height, your weight, your injury history, your position. In fact, people can go online. Our Black Friday sale's on right now through Monday, 20% off, and you can actually get online and have help through our equipment manager online that will help form fit as to what these young people need to be in. I've got 2 grandsons that are going to wear X-Tech pads because it's the best protection possible for them. Go to xtechpads.com, and now's the time to check it out because this is the next wave of protection for our young people.
And thank you very much for that info for the Black Friday sale and for jumping on with us on our show today. We really appreciate the time, good sir.
Glad to do it, guys.